Bonjour. Ngwis kwe megesin ne indigenous cause ganabajing donji ganoje do dem. Ke get senachin and dagwe agmang moyang mangpi nongwa nichkewin gewin wa yawat. Sacred trust. We are the keepers of this land. She shelters and sustains us. Long after the flesh fails the spirit, we will care for these lands. Our drums will be heard upon the winds. Our voices in the rustle of the leaves. My people have a sacred trust with the land, a trust no man may break, a trust that death cannot sever. We were here when you stepped foot upon this land, and we will remain here long after the last step has disturbed her soil. Good evening. My name is Isadore, and I'd like to bring greetings on behalf of Chief Stacy Laforme, the Mississaugas of New Credit. I first of all, as well, want to acknowledge the creation, the prayers of Standing Bear, and the protocols of the territory. I also want to acknowledge the discussion and the fact that we acknowledge the ancestors here this evening. And when we speak about the pipe, we speak about a sacred trust. And I'm reminded that when we bring that pipe together, and my friend Cowboy knows that this is a very, very important protocol that speaks about life itself, life that the Creator has given us, a life to sustain. I have the great honor of being here this evening as the former regional chief, as the former chief in my own community, vice chair of the tribal council, but most importantly as a father. Because what we're here to talk about tonight is about sustainable futures. I want to acknowledge REDx Talks and the Indigenous Trust because recently I have been troubled by something that we've all been watching in the media, something that's very important to the future. We're here to talk about the environment tonight. Recently, the UN released a report, and I'd like to talk about that. But before I talk about that, let me ask a question. I know tonight we have individuals from the broader community. We have people that are teachers, we have some doctors here, we have industry here, we have grassroots people here. I've got a question that I'd like you to put into your hearts tonight. That question is this: what if we reach a point when you can no longer utilize the land for a commodity, where you can no longer rely on the land for economic development? Think about that. It's a very important question. The UN report that was just released, as you all know, you've heard the details, they're saying that a 2 degree increase in the planet's temperature is far too much, and it's happening way too fast. That it's happening a lot quicker than scientists earlier predicted. So within the next 12 years, we have some serious decisions to make. We've got decisions to make today. Tonight, I'd like to talk a little bit about the value proposition. What do I value? What do you value? As companies that have, saw to it as an important investment to fund this type of a discussion, as corporate leaders, what is your value proposition? Now, I, as a father, would like you to just fixate on this picture for a moment. Tonight, I was asked to speak from the heart. I'm not here as a former politician. I'm not here as somebody who thinks I have a great wisdom or have this silver bullet to resolve all the issues. What I have is I have a drive and a desire to not get stuck where we're at, to not allow what is happening to the planet to prevent me from helping my children, the next generation. So let me talk about the value proposition. That's what I value. Everybody in this room should ask themselves the question, what is most important to me? What is most important to my family? What is most important to my community? The city, the province, the country, the planet. It truly is the next generation. When I became the regional chief in Ontario, I'll just tell you what really brought me to center was I asked the question, what is it that is most important to all of these chiefs in this room? And it was the next generation. You see, I never thought that the mandate and the platform of securing a future for our children would be so fundamental, not just to the last 3 years of my political career and the conclusion of 15 excellent years of serving the people, but it would become the next stage for me to really invest my time, my energy, my mind, all the gifts that the Creator had given me, all those times that I placed tobacco on the ground, all the understanding that I sought, that it would come to bear with a very big monumental task, the next generation. Now, we've got some really excellent people, some brilliant minds, so much gray matter in this room. We've got thousands and thousands of years of education in this room. I ask myself the question, so what is the value proposition? For me, I've come to realize that when we look at our culture and who we are as Indigenous people, it's now come to the point, this is our time. We have a huge responsibility as Indigenous people to work with, to depoliticize, to depolarize the discussion of environmental sustainability. You see, it's very disheartening for me to watch what's happening in the House of Commons, at Queen's Park. Global leaders, most of which are subscribed to a global plan on climate change. But it seems to me that all too often we fall victim to what is it going to cost? What am I going to have to give up? Will I lose votes? Seems to be the argument of the day. But let me draw back from that because I want to explain how I'm starting to understand the value proposition in terms of sustainable futures for the next generation. So a few years back, my wife and I were leaving Thunder Bay. It was early in the morning. It was really, really cold, killer cold. And we were driving east, and we had passed two ladies standing in front of a car, a medium-sized sedan. And there was something in front of the car. I'm going to speed up the story a little bit. There's a lot to this story, but what we saw was a big wolf. And it was probably about minus 42 with the wind chill. It was very cold. The ladies had said, this beautiful animal, we don't know what to do. It got hit here. We don't know what to do. Can you help us? So I said, yeah, I'll help out. And I told my wife, I said, Angela, I got to help out here. So the ladies left, and I had my truck. I had my bundle with me. I had all my ceremonial items. I had warm clothes. So I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to help out here. So I picked up this big wolf. He was big, and he stunk really bad. But I thought, okay, I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to help this animal. So it was all of a sudden, I carried this animal, put him in the truck, and I'm thinking right away, well, I'm going to drop you off right around the bend there where there's nobody looking and make sure you're off the road. But I knew. And all of a sudden there was a dialogue starting in my head. He says, no, you can't just drop me off anywhere. You know this. You know where to go. You go where you named your grandson. So I had to drive quite a ways up the highway. And I'm thinking while I'm doing this, well, you know what, Maingan, if I'm going to help you, if I'm going to do this for you and go out of my way, I'm going to take maybe some of your toenails. I'm going to take your tail off, maybe rip out a couple teeth and put them in my bundle. Thinking very crazy like. He says, no, you can't do that. Keep driving, he said. So I kept driving up the side of this hill, a red rock. Near Thunder Bay, there's red cliffs. That's where this was. So I ended up going quite a ways into the bush. And I had all my warm clothes, and I said, Aj, this is where we have to drop this animal off. And I didn't want to look way up on the cliff because I thought that's where he's going to tell me he wants to go. And sure enough, he says, yes, you have to bring me up there. So I got my clothes on, brought my bundle, I had some water, had a little bit of food, had everything I needed to do a ceremony to help this animal. And I was a little bit afraid because it was way up there and it was very cold. But I did it. I pulled off to the side. I told my wife, wait here. It should take maybe 15 minutes. Well, it took a lot longer. And when I got out of the truck, I put the big smelly wolf on my shoulder again. And as I started walking, I'm thinking my feet are going to get really cold because the snow is very deep. Looked way up there. There's a big hemlock on the hill. So I started walking, and I thought, this is going to take a long time. But then I started to remember. He told me, you have to take care of me. No, you can't have my toenails. No, you can't chop off my tail. You can't take my teeth. I'm going to need those where I'm going, he said. So when I got halfway up the hill, I realized I'm not cold anymore. I feel strong. When I got to the top of the hill, I did the ceremony. And we still had this dialogue ongoing. He says, you need to point me towards that way, in the west. I want to watch the sun go down. This is where I need to be. And what I thought would be only 15 minutes turned out to be 2 hours. The prayers and the protocols and the understanding and the things that I was corrected with. You see, in the Anishinaabe creation story, Winnebujo, he walked alone for a long time. The Creator said, you're going to have to learn to walk alone for a little while. And before you're given a mate, a woman, I'm going to have Maingan walk with you. Maingan would walk with him, Winnebujo, for a long time. He would walk with him long enough that he would know what it's like to be a brother, to be a friend, to care and to love, and to think beyond himself. And when he finally realized that it wasn't just about him, the Creator said, now, Maingan, you have to go this way. Winnebujo, you go this way. And you will never ever cross this way again. This is why you can never see a dog in one of our ceremonies. unless it's a very specific ceremony. It's because when they parted past and they learned about kinship, that's when the Creator gave Winnebujo his woman. You see, what I learned throughout that time, which was about 2 hours, I learned that it was not me. It was so humbling because I realized that it was not me helping the Mayingan up that hill. Mayingan was helping me understand and get back to my teachings and get out of myself and understand that it's not about me. You see, we've come to a point in our history as Indigenous people. We've come to a point as a species, societies, cultures, where we need to understand a new value proposition. And as Indigenous people, we were told that we would come to this point where we would have to go back to the teachings, the ceremonies, the protocols, our languages, where we would have to speak about these places. Here, my daughters, they are at a place called Old Woman Bay on northern Lake Superior. And here's my daughters here. And we were told that we would reach this time where we would need to rethink how we live together. And we would have to reassess our understanding about the gifts that we've been given, love being probably the most important. So I don't want to stand here tonight to talk about environmental policy. I don't want to talk about politics. But I really felt it was important to raise the importance of the question, what is your value proposition? Going back to the other question, what if I were to tell you that at some point you'll never be able to commoditize that land again? I think the value proposition really is the tool, is the way forward to help us correct that. And I, for one, I want to take a moment to just thank you for thinking about that and taking that question away. What is my value proposition for the next generation? You see, because sustainable futures is not just about what is the economic gain, how big will my house be, how many cars will I have? It's about the next generation. And just as in the story that I told you about Mayingan, we come to realize at some point when we start to challenge ourselves with the value proposition that we start to make better decisions. Our families become stronger. And at this point in time, if we take this notion of a better value proposition for the next generation, we're going to give them hope. And that's why I want to thank you. And I want to thank REDx Talks and Indigenous Trust and all of you for being here. And it's going to be a good evening. Thank you very much.